Have you ever been in a place you didn't really expect to be? Maybe it's a little dark, maybe it's a little scary. Maybe it wasn't the place you thought your life would end up. Maybe you thought God had other plans for your life. And suddenly you look up and you're surrounded by darkness and fear. The 8th chapter of Luke tells a pretty incredible story about faith. There's a guy named Jairus who falls at the feet of Jesus. And he says, "Jesus, my daughter is dying. You gotta help me." So Jesus goes and he starts to walk with Jairus, and they began to walk down that path toward Jairus' house so that Jesus can heal Jairus' daughter. And Jairus has hope and he has faith that they're headed the right direction, and he's excited that this is going to work out. So they begin walking. They begin walking home. But on their way home, Jesus is asked to help other people. So Jesus stops and he helps other people. And while Jesus is helping other people, a messenger arrives for Jairus. And he says the news that Jairus hoped would never come. He says, "Jairus, your daughter is dead. There's no need to bother the teacher any longer." In that moment, every hope that Jairus had was gone. In his life, it seemed like a dark place. All of his dreams were crushed. Now, you know what Jesus did in that moment when Jairus' dreams were crushed and his life felt over? Jesus looked at Jairus and he said, "Don't fear. Only believe and she'll be made well." Hey, I think the thing that Jesus said, "Don't fear, believe, she'll be made well," that's just as important as what Jesus didn't say. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of times we get to a scary spot in life and we ask Jesus for help. Maybe we pray and we pray and we pray for help. Maybe there's somebody sick that we've been praying for, that God would just touch them and heal them and they could feel better and they would be healed and they could move on with their lives. And we pray for them. Maybe it's a son or a daughter, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a friend, and we pray that God will just touch them and help them feel better. And we pray and we pray and we pray, and then we get the message: it's too late. Don't bother God with it anymore. Or maybe our family is in trouble. Maybe the person that we once trusted with everything betrayed that trust, and everything changed in an instant. Maybe a relationship that started so strong and so wonderfully just slowly began to deteriorate over time. And the marriage that was once so strong is now shaky and dark. Maybe the child that once had so much promise made a bad decision, and now that promise seems like a distant memory. Maybe it was the job, maybe it was our finances, maybe it was a relationship, but whatever it was, we prayed for help. We prayed saying, "God, help us." And then the message came: it's too late. Too much damage has been done. There's no need to bother God with it anymore. And so we stop. We stop our prayers. We stop because if God didn't care enough to answer that prayer, would he care enough to answer this prayer? And we stop wondering if he'll ever answer any prayer. and our life becomes dark and lonely. Now, that happens sometimes. But listen to what Jesus says. Don't fear, believe. She'll be made well. In our lives, Jesus still says, don't fear, believe in me. This is gonna be okay. What Jesus did not say to Jairus was, hey, stick with me. You're about to see something really amazing. I'm gonna walk into your house and I'm gonna touch your daughter and I'm gonna call her up from the dead and she's gonna be made well. Because that's what happened. Jairus got up and he walked with Jesus, and Jesus went into Jairus' house and he touched Jairus' daughter, and life was breathed back into her lungs. And in our lives, sometimes Jesus has to do that same thing. He has to walk with us and hold us so that he can show us that we'll be made well. If you stopped bothering the teacher, bother him. If you stop talking to God, talk to him. He's waiting to make you well. Walk with him. Even if you're in a dark place, you never know what kind of light is waiting on the other side.